girls, for lesson 7.4, we're going to look at what makes interest groups so extremely powerful. And we're going to start off with interest groups. We know they're extremely powerful, and we know they have great influence over politics because of the many cracks we have in our government system. And here's your first takeaway. Size and resources is the topic. So first, no legislator can deny the power of an interest group with such large memberships in interest groups. Labor unions, for example, we have the NEA, which has 2.7 million people. We have Teamsters, part of a labor union with 1.4 million people. We have the United Auto Industry, that would be like Ford Motor Mechanic makers and GM makers. We have nearly 1 million people. We have the AAA, which is the AAA, and that is 61 million people. And we have AARP with 38 million people. So they have millions. They control millions of votes, okay? And that's super important because it's in every congressional district. Wisconsin itself has 10 congressional districts. 10 in Wisconsin. A place like California has 53. So if you can control the vote in those districts, you control elections, all right? Large groups, they have a large financial base. If AARP, every single person donated $1 single, that'd be $61 million you could do to get a candidate in office or to pursue policy. So they use money for 5 key things, and here they are. Number 1 is lobbying. We know lobbying is spending money to influence politicians and policy. They buy TV ads, right? Think of all the Trump ads. Donald Trump didn't pay for all of them. There were businesses and organizations that were supporting Trump. Heck, the military and veterans were supporting Donald Trump. They paid for ads. We also have mailings. Remember those brochures your parents got in 2020? Those are paid for by interest groups and their large financial power. We also have websites. The power of a website today, it goes without saying how valuable it is. We also have social media. I don't need to say any more than Trump's Twitter storm. I don't need to say any more about how Facebook can change elections and how those simple things we looked at on the daily in Facebook were stormed and swamped with ads for Biden, ads for Trump. 2 of the largest, most powerful interest groups are pharma. Pharma stands for Pharmaceutical Companies of America, basically. They're basically your big drug companies like Pfizer and Merck, okay? Super duper powerful. They make drugs which cost $200, $300, $400, $500, $1,000, and they are getting all the profits from it, from their research and their development, okay? So that is that portion of it. What I want you to do for your first task after you pause this video and hear the directions is research 2 big pharmaceutical companies besides Pfizer and Merck that are part of pharma. I did this very easily, and I came up with a list of over 20 and put their names right there. Try to focus on the ones that you possibly have heard of before. They're out there. You just got to think and look. But if you don't know any, go ahead and just put 2 that you find. Okay, so pause the video now and take care of that. All right, now that you're back, the other largest, most powerful interest group is AARP, the American Association of Retired People. Did you know that you do not need to be retired to be part of AARP? Yes, that's right. 39-year-old Mr. Resch can pay his dues, receive those benefits, those material, purposive, and also solidary benefits, and I can join AARP in support of the retired population of America. It is a humongous group, 38 million people. Think of the influence that they have. Leadership is another factor that influences the power of an interest group, and they obviously, great leaders lead good schools. Great leaders lead to military victories on the battlefield. Great leaders in interest groups would obviously lead to things getting done. Strong leadership, no doubt, influences legislation. The AIPAC, which I believe stands for the American Israeli Political Action Committee, the American Israeli Political Action Committee has influenced foreign relations in aid to Israel, a small Middle Eastern country, with $6 to $7 billion with a B. Just so you know, it takes 1,000 millions to make 1 billion. That's extremely influential. And if you might remember, Donald Trump and previous presidents have either given or pulled economic or financial aid to Israel for the protection of these people there. Another thing, strong leaders equal improved national image. I don't have to go and tell you a big story, but I'm just going to tell you one quickly. The United States under Obama looked a lot stronger than the United States under Trump to Russia. Now, Russia might have had some pictures with Putin and Trump together, but the world knew that what Trump maybe incited on January 6, 2021, that made our country look weak. In places like Russia, and I'm going to write it on here because it's that important, China, and other places that are controlled by authoritarian governments and dictatorships, they look at what Trump did, they videotaped it, and they've got that on replay throughout the country to prove you need us. You need militaristic authoritarian rule, and democracy doesn't work. U.S. government doesn't work to China. They're replaying that stuff in North Korea, I'm sure, too. Cohesiveness is another factor that influences the power and gives power to interest groups. And one key thing in cohesiveness is motivation. How are people motivated? The key factor in the size of the power of cohesiveness is motivation, okay? How bad do the members want it? If members feel really strong sense of togetherness, their commitment rises through the roof, it goes up, and they can defeat and or elect representatives with greater motivation, okay? Think of those Black Lives Matter protesters. They were extremely motivated, and they inspired thousands of people to also react. Their cohesiveness, their togetherness, and working together across racial, genders, and all those other different groups, social, economic groups, has brought them success and more equality. We can measure cohesion in two ways. The first is speed in contacting politicians, right? If I have 38 million people in AARP, 61 million people in AAA, I can say, hey, we need you all members to contact, let's say it's Ron Johnson of Wisconsin, or Tammy Baldwin of Wisconsin, our senators. And we can speed dial them quick and say what we want. And if they're great and honest representatives, they should listen to the people. They should vote what the people want. The second is how they can raise money quickly. Again, if I had 61 million AAA members all give $1 towards Trump or Biden's campaign, that's a lot of money that helps get a lot of things done. Finally, your ability to rally support in or to your cause makes interest groups more or less powerful. How has social media been used? How do people conduct themselves in demonstrations? All those things that can help rally the troops, so to speak, or gain momentum towards a movement, especially social media platforms like Twitter and Facebook, can all increase the power of an interest group. Now to your final task. For task number 2, I'm going to tell you a little story. I would like you to, in the task, investigate illegal lobbying in the United States in the early 1800s. This might take some time, so be prepared for that. I would like you to summarize and show 2 examples of illegal lobbying in that time frame of the early middle or end of 1800s. And my example is about Benjamin Franklin. He was a U.S. ambassador of sorts, an advisor, who went to France just after the American Revolution. He helped earn funding for the American Revolution from France and support. And Ben Franklin, in 1785, received a diamond snuff box. Not even sure what that is, but it's not something you smell. It's a gift from the King of France. And it was customary back in that time period to get these gifts in exchange for a future favor. Now, under the Articles of Confederation, which was America's first government, that's highly illegal. It was being equated to a bribe, but Ben Franklin didn't get it approved by Congress like he should have. He kept that. So, your job is to find two other similar examples of how illegal lobbying in the US in the 1800s happened. And we will be ready to talk about those examples and share some. Okay? Today, 2021, there is limits to how much money a politician can receive in gifts, and for probably good reason, so that we don't have corrupt government. But as we know, interest groups have their ways, right? They not only have the pocketbooks of the campaigns, but they also have the ability to influence votes through pressure and calling and donations and just time and their movements. All right. Good job, boys and girls. Please do task number 2 here and submit it when you're done.